don't with the do. A don't with the do. Don't with the do. Don't do that. Do this. Okay? Very good. Don't do that, do this. Balance your don't with a do. I think I made my point there, right? Hello, I'm Bill Jameson. Welcome to 24/7 Dad. This is our 7th session, and this session deals with discipline. So let's get started. I hope that you have your workbook handy. If you don't have a workbook, just get a pen and pad and jot down some notes, and when you get the workbook, you'll be able to fill it in quickly and have it with you always. Well, I want to start by asking questions or making statements. And so the first statement I want you to complete is, one time that sticks out in my mind when my father, a main caregiver, disciplined me was, I would like for you to complete that sentence. What did you learn from that incident when your dad or your caregiver disciplined you? Okay? And once you've answered those questions, I'm going to move on to talk about morals and values. Okay? And let me just first here define discipline so that we'll have our bearing for the rest of our discussion. Discipline comes from the Latin word discipulus, okay? Meaning to teach or to guide, to teach or to guide. The word is discipulus, 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 okay? Morals, on the other hand, are the rules or the habits of good or right behavior. They tell us what is right and what is wrong. Our morals tells us what is right and what is wrong. They are guides for us, really, okay? One moral I learned in childhood that I will practice today is what? What is one moral that you learned during your childhood that you still do today? Okay? You know, I shared that one that I still do today is that I was taught not to steal, that you should not steal, that it was wrong to steal. And so I don't steal today. Now, I had to learn that, and sometimes I challenged that when I was younger. But today, I really take heed to that moral that it is wrong to steal. What about you? And then another question I have for you, rather it's a statement that you can feel. It says, one moral I learned in childhood that I don't practice today. What is a moral that you learned in childhood that you don't practice today? That you're that you neglect that area, even though you know is right, but you still don't do it. You know, I thought about that, and I think the thing that I was taught when I was younger was to be respectful and to honor other people, to not to be rude. I guess the word is not to be rude. And I find sometimes that I'm rude in conversation. What happens is that if I'm talking to you, my mind is moving at such a rapid pace that I want to say what's on my mind, but I haven't given you a time to express yourself. And so that comes across as rude. In fact, my wife tells me a lot of times, you cut me off. And that shuts her down. So I have to work at not cutting people all off in conversation, not being rude. Now that's mine. What about you? Do you have one that you still need to work on even today? Okay. Now, another one, and this is 5 in your book. One moral I teach my children that they practice is what? What is one moral that you have taught your children that they are practicing even as I speak? Okay. And mine is that I taught my children to forgive because their forgiveness of others is the best therapy for them. In other words, when we forgive other people, it really helps us more than it helps the other people. Because if you carry around hurt and resentment and hatred, it will destroy you. It will deteriorate your quality of life. And so I have learned, and I try to pass that on as much as I can to anyone I converse with, is that if you have been hurt by someone and you're holding a grudge or hatred in your heart, you need to forgive the person for your sake. You need to be free of that because ultimately the hurt and the anguish and the hatred will destroy you. It will destroy you mentally and physically. Many diseases, physical diseases, are contracted by people holding in bitterness and hatred. So we don't want to do that, and we don't want to teach our children to do that. So I tried my best to teach my children to forgive one another. In fact, when they got into or fights with each other, I would have them to make up and give each other a hug and say I'm sorry. Now, a lot of times they didn't want to do that. I know they didn't want to do that, but I was trying to teach a lesson. And I think that lesson got through because I think I see it in them today that they really got that one down pat. But I really taught that to them when they were children, when they were young, okay? So let's look at number 6 here, okay? Values are what someone thinks is important or that has worth, okay? That's what a value is. And number 7 here is modeling. We need to look at modeling. Modeling is one of the most important ways that parents teach morals and values because they can model them on purpose or not on purpose. In other words, we are teaching our children what I would call implicitly or explicitly. Explicitly is the things you do on purpose, okay? The things you do openly, pointedly, or intentionally. But the implicit are those things that you don't plan to do, but yet they happen, yet they observe. And sometimes those are the most important in terms of your children grasping what you really believe or your values or what you really think about a circumstance or situation or even people. So you need to know that you're always teaching your children, whether purposely or non-purposed. Okay? Dads who say one thing and do another confuse their children because they don't walk the talk. The role model they present doesn't place value on the moral they say they want their children to adhere to. So when you say one thing and you do another, that is confusing to your children. Now I want to switch to look at styles of discipline. This is number 8 in your workbook, styles of discipline. And the first style is the dictator. And what marks the dictator is basically my way is the highway. But let me give you some verbiage about the dictator. This dad is always strict and never nurtures. He's clear about his morals and values. He leads with control and enforce rules with an iron hand. His children know what he doesn't want them to do, but they don't have a clue as to what he does want them to do. Okay? So he is called the dictator, and it's my way or the highway. Okay, that's a pretty strong personality. The second style of leadership is called the king. This dad is strict and nurtures when needed. He is clear about his morals and values. He leads by example. His children know what he doesn't want them to do and what he does want them to do. This dad says, "Let me show you the way." So his motto is, "Let me show you the way." He is the king. This is the king style of discipline. Okay, we're talking about discipline, so you can see the contrast between the dictator and the king. Now, which one are you? I lean toward the king. I can tell you that to start with. Okay, and then we go to the next one, the third one. It is called the Joker. The Joker. His dad is never strict and rarely nourishes. He isn't clear about his morals or values. He jokes a lot and makes fun of his children. His children don't know what he doesn't want them to do or what he wants them to do. This dad says, let's just have some fun. Let's have some fun. This is a fun dad to be with. But is he really effective? Is that the dad you want to be with your children? Okay. The next style is the follower. The follower. Oh, let's look at the follower here, men. This dad is sometimes strict and sometimes nurtures. He lets mom take the lead on discipline and backs her up when needed. He is sometimes clear about his morals and values. His children know some of the things he doesn't want them to do, and some of the things he does want them to do. This dad says, do whatever your mom says. Have you heard that one? Do you do that? Just do what your mom says. I don't want to be bothered with it, okay? That is the follower dad. I don't want to be a follower dad. I don't know about you, but that's not me. I don't want to do that. I don't believe that's a good 24/7 dad. Do you? Well, let's look at style, the fifth style, and it's called the dreamer. The dreamer. This dad is never strict, never nurtures. He lets mom take the lead on discipline and doesn't get involved with it. He is never clear about his morals and values. His children don't know what he wants them to do. This dad says, whatever, just leave me alone. Whatever you want to do, just leave me alone. I don't want to be bothered. So, of those five discipline, which style are you? Are you the dictator that says my way is my way or the highway? Are you the king that says that I will lead the way or show you the way? Are you the joker that says, no, let's just have fun all the time? Okay? Are you the follower that says, whatever your mom says, do it? Or are you the dreamer? You just want to be left alone so you can dream about other things. So you say whatever you want to do. Okay. Those are the styles. You choose one. Now, I want, if you look at number 9 in your book, we're going to deal with these styles, and I want you to give me some feedback. In other words, I want you to really write in your book or think about these as we go through them. So number 9 says, my style of leadership is what? What is your style of leadership? Okay, well, I believe my style of leadership is number 2, the king. I try to lead my, I believe that my style is the king, number 2. I try to lead by example. That's what I try to do. I want my children to know what is right and wrong. So I want my children to know what is right and wrong, so I try to lead by example. Okay? Number 10, I use this style because. Why do you use the style of discipline that you use? Or why are you willing, or even if you don't have children, sometimes we have ideas about discipline. So I want to challenge that. I'm asking you, why do you believe the style you are using is most effective? Then I would like to know why you feel that way. So number 10 says that I use this style because I wrote in my workbook, I want to be fair and just in my dealings with my children. They need to know what I believe is right and what I believe is wrong. Okay? I try to nurture and be firm when necessary. Notice I nurture, but I'm firm when necessary. I think this is a good approach. And I'm not just saying that because that's what I see, but I believe that that's a good way to approach fatherhood and your relationship with your children because they are human beings. And you want to have a loving relationship with them, but you also don't want to be a pushover. You want to be firm. If you're a pushover, they will disrespect you. They won't. They don't respect the whatever dad. They don't respect the joker. They don't take them serious. They will begin to go to other people who they think are serious to get real advice from, and they will ignore you, and you don't want that to happen. So a 24/7 dad knows how to relate to his children, how to discipline them. And so I believe that the king way is a good way. It's setting an example. It's being firm. It is being fair. It is being adjustable, if you will. And it's being nurturing and loving to your children. All right, number 11 in your workbook says, with my style of discipline, I want to make sure my children learn what? What is it that you're wanting your children to learn with your style of discipline? I wrote this. I want them to know what is right and what is wrong, yet know that I love them. I want them to know what is right and wrong, and also I want them to know that I love them. Okay? Number 12. Okay. What am I afraid of that they might be learning? What am I afraid of that they might be learning? I said that I think they may sometimes think that I'm too strict, I'm old-fashioned, or I'm not really relevant to where they are, and they know what's best more so than I do. That's what I'm afraid of. And I don't think I'm the only one that has that fear, but I believe that, we think we know what's best, even when we're children. So I don't want my children to ignore the guidance that I provide them and the things that I teach them. I want them to value those things. And so I'm afraid that at times they may feel that they know what's best for them more so than what I do. Okay? That's just, a sidebar. For me, that's what what I'm dealing with. Okay. Now, my discipline from my children's point of view. And I think I kind of got into that with my last statement, but let's get further into it. And I'll just share with you what I wrote down. They may see my values as out of touch, and they may see them through the lenses of what they're focused on in the world as they see it. Okay? So they may see my values as out of touch, and they may judge them based on the world that they live in. And sometimes the world examples are not very good, by the way. And so those are some of the things that I look at. I'm thinking this is what perhaps my children are thinking. This is how they may be dealing with my values or the way that I discipline them. Okay? Now let's turn the corner and let's talk about rewards. Rewards and punishment. Okay? There's rewards and there's punishment. So let's take a look at that. And you have about what? I guess about maybe 4 items here under this heading. And the first item is many dads believe that discipline means to control rather than to teach or to guide. As a result, they use fear when they punish. They use fear when they punish, okay? Now, want to just talk about here tips to make sure that you teach and guide and not punish. Punishment is for an infraction. Okay, you punish for something that was done wrong, and you're trying to teach your child a lesson. Okay, but discipline is not necessarily punishment, and this is where we get sort of off base. In other words, there's a misunderstanding about that. And hopefully I will explain that as we go through this. But don't rely on shame and blame, because when you use them, children don't learn that what they did is not okay. They learn that they are not okay. And that's very important, okay? Focus on the action and not on the actor. Talk about what your child did. It's okay, for example, to say your child did something bad, as long as you don't say your child is bad. That's the difference. Keep the focus on the action, okay? Repair the damage. Should always be ready to repair any damage, okay? And again, I want to say that there's a difference between discipline and punishment. And so we want to make sure that we in the right hopper. When we're trying to discipline, then we're not punishing. And when we're punishing, we're not disciplining the child, but we are trying to instill moral and values when we do that, okay? So, repair the damage. Any form of punishment hurts children. Repair the damage by telling them that you love them no matter what, and just because of who they are, even when they do something wrong and you have to punish them, okay? So you really always want to really save the personage of the child. You want to let them know that they are important and their personage is important, but what they did may be wrong. And number 3 is how to create family rules. So if we're going to have rules and we're going to discipline our children, which means to guide and to teach, then here's the way you do that. Now, it's real simple. You might say, I don't need anybody to tell me how to set up rules for my children, but you'll be amazed at what we don't know. So bear with me and go through these and see if you can use any of this, okay? So, how to create family rules. Number 1, you call a family meeting. You call a family meeting. 2, say that everyone will help create the family rules. That's very important. You want to get the kids involved with the family rules. Don't just make them and bring them to them. And there's a psychology to that really works in your favor if you do that, okay? And 3, divide a large sheet of paper into 2 parts or 2 halves. On one side, put do, and on the other side, put don'ts, okay? And then you want to get the children, okay, by asking them, okay, what should the rule be for bedtime, okay? What should the rule be for hanging out with your friends, or what should the rule be when you lie, and all those things? You'll be amazed at how your children know what is right and wrong. They will tell you. And sometimes they are more stricter than you would be. So you want to get their input. Even if you may have to tweet it, you still want to get the input, because they buy in then. They see that they are a part of this, and they're more willing to abide by something that they came up with versus something that you've come up with. And they have a sense of what is right and wrong. So, you're there to guide them. And so you want to do that. That was step 5. Step 5 in your book says, get rules from the children. Ask, what kind of rules should we have about, and I put in there, you could put any issue in there at all, homework, When should it be done? Hanging up your clothes, okay? Calling when you're going to be late, all those sorts of things. Those are the things that you want to get input from your children, and then, make them into rules. Now, obviously, with real younger kids, you can't do that, but when they're up some size and they can speak for themselves, you want to do that. And of course, teenagers, that holds true too. But even for children, and I would say in the age range of 7, 8, and on up, you want to get their input, okay? Number 6 in your book says, come up with a do and a don't. A do and a don't balance each other. If you just do a do, if it all do's, then that's not right. If it's all don'ts, a lot of times parents will say, don't do this, don't do that, but they don't have any do's. So we want to balance a don't with a do. Got that? We want to balance a don't with a do. Got that? Balance a don't with the do. A don't with the do. Don't with the do. Don't do that. Do this. Okay? Very good. Don't do that, do this. Balance your don't with a do. I think I made my point there. And then you want to do number 7. Step 7 is create no more than 7 rules. Don't come up with 15, 25. They won't remember them. You won't either. 7 good. And you can reduce it even to 5. 5 good, solid rules that will govern your home or govern your relationships with your children, what they should do and what they shouldn't do, or what they can do or what they can't do. And that will really make a difference in how you discipline them from then on, okay? Number 4 on page 43 says, every rule needs to have a consequence so that children learn the basic idea of discipline. Every rule needs to have a consequence. An example statement is, if then and in case, if you do this, this will happen, okay? If you are late with your homework, then this will happen, okay? So you want to do it, if then this will happen, okay? If you do this, then the consequences is this. That needs to be clear in their mind. Okay, for this I wrote, if you do your homework, then you can watch your favorite TV show for 30 minutes. See, that's a clear rule that my child has helped me to establish, okay? If you do your homework, then you can watch your favorite television show for 30 minutes, okay? When that happens, if-then statements help children to make good choices. So if and then, if you do this, then, if you do this, then, if and then helps children to make good choices. All right. Number 5 in your book, many dads define discipline as punishment, and this is what I've been trying to get to for the longest, okay? In other words, they don't see punishment as a way to discipline in certain situations. They see punishment and discipline as the same thing. Punishment and discipline, it is not the same thing. Discipline means to teach and to guide. Punishment means to penalize for doing something wrong. Can I repeat that? Discipline means to teach and to guide. Punishment means to penalize for doing something wrong, okay? And there is a difference, okay? Very good. Now let's look at some tips for rewarding your children. How do you reward your children for good behavior? What is that? I call it the PTF approach to children, the PTF approach. What is the PTF approach? Praise, touch, and freedom. praise, touch, and freedom. Tell your child how much you like their correct behavior and that they are a good person. Tell your child how much you like their behavior and that they are a good person. That's a praise. Touch. Give your child a big hug or massage their shoulders gently or on the back or do a high five with them. Okay? That's touch. And then you want to give them freedom. Give your child a new freedom she or he can do one time or all the time, such as stay up or out late, read an extra story at bedtime, have a second bowl of ice cream. Oh, that's a good one. Okay. Or money for doing something extra. Those are choices that the child can make. Very good. All right. And then we want to look at presents too. One of the rewards can be a present, okay? Give your child a toy or a sticker or a new phone or something extra like cash when they do something good, okay? That will reward them. But I have a note here. Let me just read this note to you. Use freedom and presents sparingly, okay? It's hard to give too much praise and too many hugs. Make sure you will give a freedom or a present before offering one. Don't say you're going to do something and don't follow through on it. So you want to make sure that you reserve gifts and extra things. Do them sparingly. Don't just do them all the time. And there's a reason for that, because the children will get used to it and they will not see it as a reward. And so it loses its effect that way. Okay? 7 in your workbook, item 7 on page 44, says tips to punish children. Okay, tips on punishing children. What should that look like? And so here it says, first thing you want to look at is say you're disappointed. Tell your children you expect more of them and that you expect them to do what is right or have the right behavior. Okay? Payback. Okay? Tell your children to make up for bad behavior. Sometimes that's the way to punish them. Okay? Such as paying for breaking something, doing the behavior they were supposed to do. In other words, you have them actually go through and do what it was they were supposed to do at first. Okay? Okay? And then you want them to say they're sorry when they hurt someone. Those are all payback examples that you can have your children do. And then the third one is time out. Time out. Tell your child to sit in a safe place like in the corner or on the couch or go to their room for a short period of time. Timeouts works best with young children between the age of 3 and 10. They don't work on teenagers. Timeout works best for ages 3 to 10. A basic rule is 1 minute for every year of the child's age. But if you think your child has learned the lesson with a shorter period of time, then have them only stay for a shorter period of time, because you just want them to get the message and you want them to conform with the right behavior. Now, let's look at grounding, okay? Don't let your child leave the house for some period of time. That's what grounding means. You want to ground your child and don't let them go. Grounding works best for older children, like teenagers. They want their freedom. So when you ground them, you get their attention, okay? And another one here on page 44 is take away freedom. When they do something wrong, take away that freedom. Again, that can work for both the young child and the older child if you take something away. Just want to share this note with you before we close. Make sure the punishment fit the crime. Don't have your children to be punished for minor things that, just a talking to will take care of it. Or maybe even, restriction or having them go to the room or whatever will do the trick. Don't overdo it, okay? Because that will then really discourage the child. And in some cases, you too. All right, so we have come to the end of session 7, and you have in your workbook the checklist, and these are items that you can look at and set up exercises, if you will, or do things with your children, or look at ways that you can work on your discipline. It's pretty self-explanatory. Just before we close, I want to ask the question, what is one thing that you learned from this session? Give me one thing that you've learned, okay? And then on a scale of 0 to 5, I want you to rate how likely will you put into practice what you learned during this session, okay? How likely are you to actually go and do those things, okay? And then a third point I want to make, what I learned will help me be a better dad because tell me why you will be a better dad if you put this new thing you've learned into practice. Well, that brings us to the conclusion of session 7. Thank you for being with me. I've enjoyed this session, and I'll see you in the 8th session. And remember, when you get there, I'll be there.